Kexathera stood in the observation deck of the starship Harmony's Edge, watching stars streak past in bright lines. The blue light from the crystals growing on their forearms reflected off the metal walls. They were excited about this mission. It was their first time working with humans. The Veltani had joined the Galactic Coalition only 2 years ago. Kexathera's people were known for being smart and peaceful. They loved learning about other species. When the Coalition asked for volunteers to work with the newest members, Kexathera raised all 4 hands at once. The newest members were humans from a planet called Earth. They had invented faster-than-light travel just 50 years ago. Most Coalition species needed hundreds of years to develop such technology. Humans did it in less than 1 human lifetime. This made many species curious about them. Kexathera walked through the ship's hallways, taking notes on a small device. The human crew members seemed so different from other Coalition species. They were small and soft. No natural armor like the Korthak. No thick skin like the Altarians. No extra arms like the Veltani. They looked so weak and fragile. In the engine room, Kexathera found Dongmin working on a power coupling. The human was young, maybe 25 Earth years old. His black hair was messy from crawling inside machinery. He wore simple blue work clothes covered in grease stains. "Hello," Kexathera said in Basic, the common language all Coalition species learned. "May I observe your work?" Dongmin looked up and smiled. Humans did that a lot, Kexathera noticed. They showed their teeth when happy. It looked strange but friendly. "Sure," Dongmin said, "just fixing a loose connection. These old ships need lots of care." Kexathera watched as Dongmin's small hands moved quickly through the machinery. Humans had only 2 arms, but they used them well. The repair took 10 minutes. Other species would need special tools. Dongmin just used his fingers and simple equipment. "Your species is very adaptable," Kexathera said, making notes. Dongmin laughed. "We had to be. Earth wasn't always a nice place to live. Lots of dangers. Weather, animals, other humans. We learned to fix things fast or die." "Other humans were dangerous?" Kexathera asked. They had read about human history but thought it was just old information. "Oh yeah," Dongmin said, closing the power coupling. "Humans fought each other for thousands of years. Wars, battles, all kinds of violence. We were really good at killing each other." Kexathera's crystals dimmed with confusion. "But you are Coalition members now. You must be peaceful." "We are peaceful," Dongmin said. "We chose to be. Doesn't mean we forgot how to fight, though." This confused Kexathera even more. How could a species choose to be peaceful? Either you were violent or you weren't. The Veltani never had wars. Fighting was not in their nature, same with most Coalition species. They evolved past violence long ago. Later, Kexathera visited the communications center. Hana was there, a young woman with short brown hair. She wore the green uniform of a communications officer. Multiple screens showed star maps and message logs. "We're getting close to the target system," Hana said when she saw Kexathera. "Should be interesting. Nobody's ever been out this far before." "Are you nervous?" Kexathera asked. Hana shrugged. "A little. Unknown systems can hide surprises. Better to be ready for anything." "What kind of surprises?" "Space pirates, hostile species, dangerous phenomena. You never know what you'll find in unexplored space." Kexathera made more notes. Humans seem to expect danger everywhere. Most Coalition species assumed other beings would be friendly, unless proven otherwise. Humans seem to assume the opposite. In the medical bay, Kexathera met Wu Jin. He was older than the other humans, maybe 40 Earth years. His hair had gray streaks and he moved with careful precision. Medical equipment filled the room. Healing machines, medicine dispensers, surgical tools. "How do human bodies compare to other species?" Kexathera asked. Wu Jin looked up from organizing medical supplies. "We're weaker in most ways. Shorter lives, softer skin, fewer natural defenses. But we heal fast and we're hard to kill completely." "Hard to kill?" "Humans are stubborn," Wu Jin said with a small smile. "We don't give up easy. Even when badly hurt, humans keep fighting to live. Sometimes we survive things that should kill us. Is this because of your violent history? Wu Jin's expression changed. He looked serious suddenly. Maybe. When your ancestors spent millions of years being hunted by big animals and fighting each other, you learned to be tough. Evolution doesn't forget lessons like that. The last human Kexthara met was So Young. She worked in tactical planning. Though the coalition rarely needed such skills, most problems were solved through talking and science. So Young was small even for a human, but she moved with confidence. Her eyes always watched everything around her. What does tactical planning mean in peacetime? Kexthara asked. You plan for problems before they happen, So Young said. Study star maps for safe routes. Check ship systems for weak points. Know where everyone is in case of emergency. What kind of emergency? Ship damage, hostile contact, system failures. Space is dangerous. Smart people prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. Kexthara spent the rest of the day thinking about what they had learned. Humans were physically weak but mentally tough. They expected danger but chose peace. They remembered violence but practiced kindness. It made no sense. That evening, all species on the ship gathered for a meal. Kexthara sat with the humans and listened to them talk. They laughed often and told stories about their homes on Earth. They seemed happy and relaxed. But Kexthara noticed small things. Dongmin sat where he could see all the exits. Hana kept checking her communication device. Wu Jin carried a small medical kit even to dinner. So Young watched everyone who entered the room. Why do you always seem ready for trouble? Kexthara finally asked. The humans looked at each other. It was So Young who answered. Old habits, she said. Our grandparents lived through the last big war on Earth. They taught us to always pay attention, always be ready. Even in peaceful times, smart people stay alert. But we are in coalition space. It is safe here. Probably, Dongmin said. But the galaxy is big. We've only explored a tiny part of it. Who knows what's still out there? Kexthara went to their quarters that night with many questions. Tomorrow they would reach the unexplored system. The mission would begin. Maybe then they would understand humans better. They fell asleep while updating their research notes. Humans appear to be a contradiction, peaceful beings who never forgot how to fight. This observer believes they have evolved past their violent nature while retaining suspicious caution. Further study needed. Outside the ship, stars continued to streak, past as they traveled toward the unknown. The Harmony's edge dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a soft humming sound. Kexthara stood on the bridge, watching the main screen show their destination. What they saw made everyone go quiet. A huge structure floated in empty space. It was the size of a small moon, but clearly artificial. Metal and strange materials formed complex patterns across its surface. Parts of it were dark, but some sections still glowed with unknown energy. By the great light, whispered Captain Veltar, an Altarian with blue skin and wise old eyes. I have never seen anything like this. The ship's computers started scanning immediately. Data flowed across multiple screens. The structure was old, very old, maybe thousands of years, but it was definitely built by intelligent beings. Sir, Hana said from her communication station, I'm picking up the energy signature that brought us here. It's coming from inside that thing. Any other ships in the system? Captain Veltar asked. No, sir. We're alone. Kexthara watched the humans during this discovery. While other crew members stared in wonder, the humans were working. Dongmin checked ship systems. Hana scanned for signals. Wu Jin prepared medical supplies. So Young studied the structure's layout on tactical displays. What are you doing? Kexthara asked So Young. Looking for ways in and ways out, So Young replied without taking her eyes off the screen. If we go inside that thing, we need to know how to leave quickly if something goes wrong. Why would something go wrong? So Young looked at Kexthara with an expression they couldn't read. Because someone built that thing and then left it empty. People don't abandon something that big unless they had a very good reason. 2 hours later, the first exploration team prepared to enter the structure. Captain Veltar chose 6 crew members, 2 Altarians, 1 Veltani scientist named Kexthara, and 3 humans, Hana, Wu Jin, and So Young. They took a small shuttle to reach the structure. Up close, it was even more impressive. The metal was covered in symbols and patterns unlike anything in Coalition records. Some sections looked damaged, as if something had attacked it long ago. There. Hana pointed to an opening in the structure's side. That looks like a docking port. The shuttle attached to the structure with a soft click. Air pressure readings showed the inside had breathable atmosphere, though it smelled strange, old and metallic with hints of something else. They entered through an airlock into a vast corridor. The walls were covered in more strange symbols. Emergency lights provided dim red illumination. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. "Stay close together," Captain Veltar ordered. "Document everything but touch nothing." Kexathera used their recording device to capture images of the symbols and architecture. The builders were clearly advanced. The technology looked more complex than anything the Coalition had. As they walked deeper into the structure, they found disturbing signs. Scratch marks on walls that looked like claw marks, burn patterns from energy weapons, dark stains on the floor that might have been blood. "Sir," one of the Altarians said nervously, "perhaps we should return to the ship and call for a larger exploration team." "Nonsense," Captain Veltar replied. "This is the greatest discovery in Coalition history. We must learn what we can." Kexathera noticed the humans were acting strangely. They moved differently now, more carefully. Hana kept checking her communication device. Wujin carried his medical kit like a weapon. So-young walked at the back of the group, frequently looking behind them. "Is something wrong?" Kexathera asked Wujin. "Maybe," Wujin said quietly. "This place feels wrong, like a battlefield after the fighting ended, but there are no bodies." That might be worse than finding bodies. They reached what looked like a control center. Massive screens covered the walls, most of them dark. Computer stations filled the room. Some equipment was damaged, but much of it looked functional. "Incredible," Captain Veltar breathed. "If we can access their database, imagine what we might learn." Hana approached one of the computer stations. Her fingers moved over strange controls until suddenly, lights began flickering on throughout the room. Screens activated, showing symbols and data. "I think I'm getting something," she said. "Their computer systems are different but not completely alien. Give me a few minutes." While Hana worked on the computers, the others explored the control center. Kexathera found star maps showing parts of the galaxy they had never seen. The Altarians discovered technical diagrams of weapons more powerful than anything in Coalition space. Then Hana made a breakthrough. "I've got access to their main database," she announced. "And I found what that energy signature was. It's a distress beacon activated automatically when our ship entered this system." "A distress beacon?" Captain Veltar asked. "From whom?" "According to this data, this structure belonged to something called the Hegemony. They were, God, this is hard to translate, a military empire. They conquered other species and made them into slaves." "When did this happen?" "The timestamps suggest about 3,000 years ago. But sir, there's more. The Hegemony didn't just disappear. According to these logs, they were destroyed by their own victims. A species they conquered turned into something else, something that fought back." So-young had been studying the technical diagrams. "These weapon specifications are incredible. The Hegemony had enough firepower to destroy entire planets." "What happened to them?" Kexathera asked. Hana continued reading the database. The records end abruptly. Final entries mention something called the Korthak swarm. The logs suggest the Korthak were originally a peaceful species that the Hegemony enslaved and changed somehow, transformed them into living weapons. "Where are they now?" Captain Veltar asked. "Unknown. The database doesn't say." Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the control center. Red lights flashed everywhere. The screens showed new data. Proximity warnings. "What's happening?" Captain Veltar demanded. Hana worked frantically at the controls. Her face went pale as she read the displays. "Ships," she said in a tight voice. "Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. They're surrounding us." "Coalition vessels?" "No, sir, the computer identifies them as Korthak." The room went silent except for the alarms. Everyone stared at Hana. That's impossible, Captain Veltar said. They disappeared 3,000 years ago. Tell that to the 15 warships that just entered weapons range, Hana replied. On the screens they could see the approaching ships. They were black and angular, covered in spikes and weapons. They moved like a swarm of insects, coordinated and threatening. We need to get back to our ship, So-Young said urgently. Now. Wait, Captain Veltar ordered. This could be a misunderstanding. We must attempt communication first. The coalition way is always diplomacy before action. Kexthara watched the humans during this moment. All three of them had the same expression. Controlled fear mixed with something else. Determination, maybe. Or resignation. Sir, Hana said. I'm receiving a transmission from the lead Korthak ship. Put it through. The speakers crackled with static, then a voice spoke. It wasn't quite natural. Too many harmonics, like multiple voices speaking at once. Warm meat detected. Coalition species identified. You have activated the beacon. You have served your purpose. Prepare for harvest. The transmission ended. Captain Veltar looked confused. Harvest? What do they mean by harvest? So-Young was already moving toward the exit. Nothing good. We need to leave. Right now. Through the control center's windows, they could see the Korthak ships getting closer. Some were already launching smaller attack craft toward the structure. Perhaps if we explain that we are explorers, not enemies, Captain Veltar began. They don't care, Wujin interrupted, something he had never done before. Those things aren't interested in talking. As if to prove his point, the first Korthak boarding pod slammed into the structure's hull. The vibration shook the entire control center. Run, So-Young said simply. And for the first time since joining the coalition, Kexithara learned what it felt like to flee for their life. The journey back to their shuttle became a nightmare. The ancient structure shook as more Korthak boarding pods attached to its hull. Emergency lights flickered and failed. Strange sounds echoed through the corridors, metal being torn apart and something else. Something that sounded like screaming. Captain Veltar led the group, still believing they could resolve this peacefully. The two Altarians stayed close to him, their blue faces pale with fear. Kexithara struggled to keep up, their crystalline, body not built for running, but it was the humans who worried Kexithara most. So-Young had taken point position, moving ahead to check corners. Hana carried her communication equipment like a weapon. Wujin kept looking behind them, his medical kit now open to reveal items that definitely weren't for healing. They were halfway to the shuttle when they met the first Korthak warrior. It emerged from a side corridor without warning. Kexithara's first thought was that it looked wrong, like someone had taken an insect and made it the size of a person, then covered it in black armor. 6 arms ended in claws that could tear through metal. Its head had too many eyes, all glowing, red. When it opened its mouth, they saw rows of sharp teeth. Captain Veltar stepped forward with his hands raised. We are peaceful explorers from the Galactic Coalition. We mean no harm. Perhaps we can discuss. The Korthak didn't let him finish. One claw struck out faster than Kexthara could follow. Captain Veltar fell backward with blood spreading across his chest. For a moment, everyone froze. Coalition species weren't used to sudden violence. Their minds needed time to process what had happened. Everyone except the humans. So-Young moved first. She had picked up a piece of broken metal from the floor. Before the Korthak could attack again, she drove it into a gap in its armor. The creature made a horrible sound and stumbled. Move, she shouted to the others. Get to the shuttle. The Altarians helped carry their wounded captain. Kexithara ran as fast as they could. Behind them, they heard sounds of fighting. Metal hitting armor, strange alien cries, and human voices shouting. They reached the shuttle just as more Korthak appeared in the corridor. The Altarians got Captain Veltar inside and started medical treatment. Kexthara strapped themselves in, still in shock from what they had seen. The humans arrived last. Wujin was supporting Hana, who had blood on her arm. So-Young backed into the shuttle holding a broken piece of Korthak armor. All 3 of them were breathing hard but alert. Go! 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 So-Young yelled. The shuttle launched and flew toward the Harmony's edge. Through the windows, Kexthera could see Korthak attack ships following them. The bigger ship was already under attack. Weapons fire lit up space around it. They docked with their ship just as the first Korthak boarding pods attached to the hull. The Harmony's Edge wasn't a warship. It had minimal weapons and shields designed for asteroid deflection, not combat. Against 15 Korthak vessels, it stood no chance. On the bridge, chaos ruled. Crew members from 12 different species ran around without purpose. Some tried to hide. Others attempted to send surrender signals. A few worked to get the engines running for escape. Captain Veltar was taken to medical care. The ship's second officer, an Altarian named Beltak, took command. He immediately tried to open communications with the Korthak fleet. Unknown vessels, this is the Coalition ship Harmony's Edge. We are scientists, not soldiers. We request peaceful dialogue to resolve this situation. The response came quickly. Warm meat will be harvested. Resistance will make the process painful. What do they mean by harvest? Beltak asked. It was Wu Jin who answered. He had been treating wounded crew members, but now he stood up with a grim expression. They mean they're going to capture us and use our bodies for something, probably turn us into more of them, based on what we learned about their history. That's impossible. No species would do such a thing. These aren't normal beings anymore, So-Young said. She had been studying tactical displays. According to the data we downloaded, the hegemony changed the Korthak from peaceful explorers into living weapons. They've been waiting out here for 3,000 years for someone to activate that beacon. The ship shook as Korthak warriors began cutting through the hull. Emergency alarms blared throughout the ship. We need to surrender, Beltak decided. Surely they can be reasoned with. They can't, Dongmin said. He had joined them on the bridge, his engineering uniform dirty from preparing ship systems. I've been monitoring their communications. They don't think of us as people, we're just resources to them. Then what do you suggest? The humans looked at each other. Kexthera saw something pass between them, a silent conversation that excluded everyone else. We fight, So-Young said simply. Fight? Beltak laughed nervously. With what? This is a research vessel. We have no weapons. We have tools, Dongmin said. Engineering equipment, mining lasers, chemical supplies. Everything can be a weapon if you know how to use it. But we're peaceful beings. We don't know how to fight. You don't, Hana said. We do. The bridge went quiet, except for the sounds of Korthak warriors getting closer. Kexthera watched the faces around them. Coalition species looked terrified and confused. The humans looked determined and calm. I cannot authorize violence, Beltak said. It goes against everything the Coalition stands for. Then don't authorize it, So-Young replied. Just don't stop us. More explosions shook the ship. Through the internal communications, they could hear crew members screaming as Korthak warriors found them. The sounds were horrible. Coalition species had never learned to fight back effectively. How many Korthak are on our ship? Dongmin asked. Hana checked her sensors. Maybe 50, they're spreading through all decks. How many crew do we have left? About 200 scattered throughout the ship. So-Young nodded. We can work with that. Dongmin, how fast can you weaponize our systems? Give me 20 minutes. I've been preparing modifications since we joined. Coalition service. You've been what? Beltak demanded. Making backup plans, Dongmin said without apology. Humans always have backup plans. Kexthera watched this exchange with growing amazement. While Coalition officers argued about protocols and proper procedures, the humans were already acting. They moved with purpose and coordination like they had planned for this exact situation. Wait, Kexthera said. You knew this might happen? We knew something might happen, Wu Jin corrected. We didn't know what, but we prepared anyway. How? Every human ship has hidden weapons, So-Young explained. Every human crew member has combat training. Every human facility has emergency protocols. We learned long ago that peace only lasts when good people are ready to fight for it. The ship shook again, harder this time. Through the communication system, they heard a Korthak voice. Bridge located. Warm meat gathered there. Harvest begins. Beltak turned pale. They're coming for us. Good, So-young said, picking up a heavy tool from an emergency kit. Let them. Come. Kexathera realized they were about to see something no coalition species had witnessed in centuries. Humans at war. Not the primitive humans from history books, but modern humans who had chosen peace while keeping their capacity for violence. Dida, bridge doors began to glow red as Korthak cutting tools worked through the metal. Everyone get behind the control stations, So-young ordered. This is going to be ugly. For the first time since meeting humans, Kexthara began to understand what made them truly dangerous. It wasn't their violence. It was their choice to be violent only when necessary. And right now it was very necessary. The bridge doors exploded inward in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. 3 Korthak warriors burst through the ruined bridge doors. Their red eyes swept the room looking for targets. Claws clicked on metal as they advanced. Coalition crew members screamed and tried to hide behind their stations. But the humans were already moving. So-young met the first warrior head-on. The heavy tool in her hand struck its head with a loud crack. The creature stumbled but didn't fall. Its claws slashed at her, barely missing as she rolled away. Hana had grabbed a power, coupling from her communication station. When the second warrior came for her, she jammed it into the gap between its armor plates. Electricity crackled and the creature convulsed before collapsing. The third warrior went after Beltak, who was frozen with terror. But Wujin appeared between them. In his hands was a medical injector, but Kexthera could smell that it wasn't, filled with medicine. The warrior's swing knocked Wujin down, but not before he pressed the injector against its neck. Whatever chemical he had used worked fast. The warrior made a choking sound and stopped moving. The fight lasted maybe 30 seconds. When it ended, 3 Korthak were dead and the humans were checking each other for wounds. Anyone hurt? Wujin asked, already examining a cut on So-young's arm. I'm fine, she replied. Dongmin, how are those modifications coming? Dongmin's voice came through the communication system. Almost done. Give me 5 more minutes. Kexathara stared at the dead Korthak warriors. These creatures had easily killed trained soldiers throughout the ship. Coalition species had no answer for their speed and strength, but humans had fought them and won. How? They asked out loud. How what? Hana replied, repairing her damaged equipment. How did you do that? They're faster than us, stronger than us, better armed. So-young looked up from cleaning her improvised weapon. They're predictable. Military training teaches you to look for patterns. These things attack the same way every time. Direct assault, claws first, no strategy beyond overwhelming force. But you're not military. Every human gets basic combat training in school, Wujin said. We learn to fight, to think tactically, to improvise weapons. It's part of our education. Why? The 3 humans looked at each other again with that silent communication. Because our grandparents promised we'd never be helpless again, Hana said quietly. More explosions echoed through the ship. The Korthak were still hunting coalition crew throughout other decks. We need to help them, Kexthera said. We will, So-young promised. But first we need to even the odds. Dongmin's modifications were working. Through the ship's systems, he had turned mining lasers into precision weapons. Industrial cutting tools became automated defense systems. Chemical storage became gas weapons. The peaceful research vessel was transforming into something dangerous. Beltak, So-young said to the acting captain. We need to coordinate with surviving crew members. Can you reach them? The Altarian officer looked overwhelmed. Yes, some sections are still responding. Good. Tell them to gather in groups and find defensible positions. We're going to take back our ship. This is wrong, Beltak said. The coalition doesn't fight. We negotiate. We find peaceful solutions. The coalition doesn't fight because species like humans do it for them, Wujin replied. Someone has to be willing to get their hands dirty so others can stay clean. Kexathera thought about this. For centuries, coalition species had lived in peace partly because they stayed in safe, explored regions of space. When dangers arose, they retreated or called for help. They had never needed to face something like the Korthak. "I want to help," Kexathara said suddenly. Everyone looked at them in surprise. "You're not trained for combat," So-young pointed out gently. "Then train me. Fast." Woojin handed them a medical injector filled with the same chemical that had killed the Korthak warrior. "Aim for the neck or joints in their armor. Press hard and hold for 3 seconds. Don't hesitate. They won't." They spent the next 10 minutes planning their counterattack. The humans had detailed knowledge of the ship's layout, crew locations, and Korthak positions. They moved through the ship's ventilation system and maintenance corridors, avoiding direct confrontation while positioning themselves for coordinated strikes. Kexathara followed Wu Jin through narrow passages they never knew existed. The human moved silently despite his size. Every few minutes he stopped to listen or check his scanner. "There," he whispered, pointing to a ventilation grate. Below they could see a group of Korthak warriors guarding captured coalition crew members. Through their communication devices, they heard So-young's voice. "Everyone ready?" Confirmations came from multiple locations throughout the ship. The humans had split up to hit different groups simultaneously. "On my mark," So-young said. 3, 2, 1, mark." Woojin kicked out the ventilation grate and dropped into the room. Kexathara followed, their forearms shaking with fear and adrenaline. The Korthak turned toward this new threat, but they were too slow. Woojin's medical injector found its target. Kexathara stumbled but managed to press their weapon against another warrior's joint. The chemical worked as promised. Around the ship, similar attacks were happening. Dongmin's modified systems came online, filling corridors with cutting laser fire and toxic gas. The Korthak, used to easy victories against helpless victims, found themselves facing organized resistance. But the real shock came when the humans started coordinating with coalition crew members. Instead of just hiding, species like the Altarians and Veltani began helping. They couldn't fight directly, but they could operate equipment, tend wounded, and provide intelligence. "Engineering to bridge," Dongmin's voice announced. "All Korthak boarding parties neutralized. Repeat, our ship is secure." Cheers erupted from coalition crew members throughout the ship. They had won their first victory. But through the bridge windows, Kexathara could see the Korthak fleet still surrounding them. 15 warships against 1 research vessel. The boarding assault had failed, but the enemy could simply destroy them from a distance. "What now?" Beltak asked. So-young was studying tactical displays. "Now we show them what happens when you threaten coalition ships." "We can't fight 15 warships," Beltak protested. "We're not going to fight them," Dongmin said with a grim smile. "We're going to make them fight each other." Kexathara watched the humans work together with frightening efficiency. Hana used her communication skills to hack into Korthak ship networks. Dongmin modified their engines to produce unusual energy signatures. Woojin prepared chemical weapons using their research supplies. "What are you doing?" Kexathara asked. "Psychological warfare," So-young explained. "The Korthak are a hive mind species, but they're also predators. Predators have instincts that can be exploited." Within an hour, the plan was in motion. False signals made it appear that some Korthak ships were malfunctioning. Modified transmissions suggested certain vessels had been infected with a virus. Chemical weapons created confusion about which ship still contained pure Korthak versus compromised ones. The hive mind began to fracture as individual ships received conflicting information. Some Korthak vessels started attacking others they believed were compromised. The neat formation dissolved into chaos. "Incredible," Beltak whispered, watching enemy ships destroy each other. "How did you know this would work?" "Humans have been fighting hive minds for millennia," Woojin said. "Ants, termites, other social insects. We learned how to turn their coordination against them." In less than 2 hours, the Korthak fleet had destroyed itself. Only 3 ships remained, and they were retreating toward the edge of the system. Kexathara looked around the bridge at the humans who had saved them all. These small, soft beings had defeated an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy 3,000 years ago. I don't understand, they said. You're peaceful people. How are you so good? At war? It was Hana who answered, her voice quiet and sad. Because we've had more practice at it than anyone else. Every human learns to fight not because we love violence, but because we hate what happens when good people can't defend themselves. Kexthera began to understand. Humans weren't naturally violent or naturally peaceful. They were naturally human, capable of great kindness and terrible destruction, choosing which face to show based on what the situation required. And that choice, that conscious decision to be gentle when they could be savage, was the most terrifying thing Kexthera had ever witnessed. 3 days after the battle, Kexthera sat in the ship's medical bay watching Wu Jin treat wounded crew members. The human's hands moved gently as he cleaned cuts and applied healing patches. These were the same hands that had killed Korthak warriors with chemical weapons. How do you do it? Kexthera asked. Wu Jin looked up from bandaging an Altarian's arm. Do what? Switch from healer to killer and back again. Wu Jin was quiet for a moment. He finished the bandage and gave the Altarian some medicine for pain. Only then did he answer. I don't switch, I'm always both, every human is. We heal because we understand suffering. We fight because we understand what happens when no one stands up to bullies. Captain Veltar had recovered enough to retake command. He called a meeting in the main conference room to discuss what had happened. Representatives from all 12 coalition species attended, either in person or through communication links. The humans saved us, Captain Veltar said simply. Without their intervention, we would all be dead or worse. Some species representatives looked uncomfortable. The Ethereal Council member, speaking through a translation device, voiced what many were thinking. Violence should not be celebrated. Even when successful, the coalition was founded on principles of peace and cooperation. Perhaps we should consider whether humans are truly compatible with our values. Kexthera stood up before any of the humans could respond. With respect, Council member, you misunderstand what happened here. The humans didn't choose violence because they wanted to. They chose violence because every other option had failed. Violence is never the only option. Really? What would you have done when the Korthak began harvesting our people? What diplomatic solution works against beings that see you only as resources to consume? The conference room grew quiet. Species that had never faced real danger struggled to answer. Dongmin spoke up. We tried your way first. Captain Veltar attempted communication, it nearly got him killed. Sometimes talking doesn't work. But surely there must have been another way, the ethereal representative insisted. So Jung leaned forward. Tell me, what that way would have been. I'm genuinely curious. How do you negotiate with something that doesn't recognize your right to exist? No one had an answer. Over the following days, Kexthera spent time reviewing all the data they had collected. The Hegemony database revealed disturbing truths about galactic history. The peaceful coalition existed in a bubble of safety, surrounded by dangers they had never imagined. The Korthak weren't the only threat out there. The database mentioned dozens of hostile species, rogue artificial intelligences, and cosmic phenomena that could destroy entire civilizations. Most had been defeated or contained by the Hegemony, but the Hegemony was gone now. Who was watching the borders of known space? No one, Hana said when Kexthera asked her. The coalition assumes the galaxy is mostly peaceful because that's all they've encountered, but they've only explored the safe parts. What about the dangerous parts? Someone has to explore those too. Someone has to stand guard against the Sedur, things that hunt civilized species. Kexthera thought about this. You mean humans? We mean whoever is capable and willing. Humans volunteer because we understand the cost of being unprepared. 2 weeks later, the Harmony's Edge returned to Coalition space. News of their discovery and the battle with the Korthak spread quickly. Some species praised the humans as heroes. Others worried about having warriors among their peaceful society. The debate reached the Coalition Council, where representatives argued about human integration policies. Should humans be restricted from certain positions? Should their weapons be regulated? Should their military knowledge be suppressed? Kexthera was asked to testify as a witness to the events. They stood before the great assembly of species, and spoke the truth as they understood it. Honored representatives, I have studied humans for months now. I have seen them in peace and in war. I have learned something that challenges everything we thought we knew about civilization and violence. We assumed that advanced species naturally evolve away from warfare. We believed that violence was a primitive trait that intelligent beings would abandon. The humans prove us wrong. Humans didn't evolve past violence. They evolved past the need for it. They became so good at warfare that they could afford to choose peace. Their restraint isn't weakness, it's strength under perfect control. When Midar, the Korthak, attacked, other species froze or tried to negotiate because we had no other options. We are peaceful because we are helpless. Humans are peaceful because they choose to be, even though they could easily choose otherwise. This makes them the most dangerous species in the galaxy, but it also makes them the safest guardians we could have. They understand both the necessity of force and the horror of its misuse. Kexathera paused, looking around the assembly. You ask whether humans are compatible with coalition values. I ask whether coalition values are compatible with reality. Peace is not the absence of conflict. Peace is what happens when good people are strong enough to protect it. The humans offer us something we have never had, the ability to remain peaceful while others handle the ugly necessity of violence. They volunteer to bear that burden so the rest of us don't have to. If we reject them because they can fight, we reject the very strength that could preserve everything we claim to value. The debate continued for days. In the end, the Council reached a compromise. Humans would be fully integrated into coalition society but with special responsibilities. They would form the coalition's first military branch, not to conquer or expand but to defend and protect. Human ships would patrol the dangerous regions of space. Human soldiers would stand watch against threats like the Korthak. Human officers would plan for dangers that other species preferred not to think about. In return, humans would have full representation in coalition government and access to all scientific knowledge. They would be partners, not just guardians. Kexathera was offered a permanent position studying human psychology and tactics. They accepted, fascinated by the contradiction they had discovered. Months later, while reviewing their research notes, Kexathera wrote their final report. The moment I fought beside humans, I learned true terror, not terror of what they might do to their enemies, but terror of what they won't do, even when they could. Humans possess the capacity for unlimited destruction, held in check only by moral choice. They are warriors who have learned to love peace more than victory. They are killers who would rather heal than harm. This restraint, this conscious decision to be gentle when they could be savage, represents something unprecedented in galactic history, evolution guided by ethics rather than necessity. The galaxy is safer with humans in it, not despite their capacity for violence, but because of their choice to avoid it. They are living proof that true civilization isn't about abandoning the ability to fight, but about fighting only when all other options have failed. They terrify their enemies not with their cruelty but with their mercy. They win wars not by being the most violent, but by being the most controlled, and perhaps most terrifying of all. They do this not for glory or conquest, but simply because someone needs to, and they are willing to bear that burden for the sake of others. This is what makes humans truly dangerous. They are the only species I have encountered that could rule the galaxy by force, but choose instead to serve it in peace. Kexathera finished the report and sent it to Coalition archives. Outside their window, human patrol ships were leaving for the dark regions of space, carrying volunteers willing to face unknown dangers so others could sleep peacefully. The crystals on their arms glowed softly as they watched the ships disappear into the darkness. They still felt that mixture of terror and gratitude whenever they thought about what humans were capable of. But now they understood that feeling was exactly what humans wanted them to feel: fear of their power, combined with trust in their restraint. It was the perfect balance for a species that could destroy worlds, but chose instead to protect them. The moment Kexathera fought beside humans, they learned that true terror wasn't about what someone might do to you. It was about realizing that someone could destroy everything you care about, but never would, because they care about it too. And that realization changed everything.